Great, so welcome. We're going to do just a maybe 20-minute yoga nidra. So this is a very relaxed experience. There's no movement involved. Please make sure that you have a blanket to get cozy with, and something to block out the light would be great, an eye pillow or even just whatever you can improvise with to lay over your eyes. So that there's not too much of a sort of visual sensory experience and we can really focus inwards on the body. We're going to lie down, so you're going to want to lie down as comfortably as possible. That could just be flat on your back, or you could choose to use some support if you feel that you need it, especially if you feel any discomfort in your low back. Then maybe having something like a bolster or a rolled up blanket underneath your knees can alleviate some of that discomfort. So just give yourself a few moments to settle in here. Make sure that it's truly the most comfortable place for you to be. And snuggle up under that blanket. Set your eye pillow or whatever you're using over your eyes. Maybe you can feel that the eyes get a little heavy. Your arms can be by your sides. I would suggest that turning the palms to face up is helpful. It allows us to let go of the inner line of the body a little bit. Maybe there's less effort then to hold at our centers. I'll just take a few moments here first to allow the pull of gravity to fully act on the body, to allow ourselves to accept that gentle tug. So you can notice here if there's any resistance, any kind of fighting against that full relaxation. We see if we can let the fight go out. And then you can start to direct your attention to your toes. And just spend some time exploring sensation in the toes, so both the left foot and the right foot. And notice how the bone structures feel, how the tiny muscles around those bone structures feel, how the skin feels. Perhaps it's not an area that we pay a lot of attention to. Although, of course, you can imagine that if you didn't have toes, you would feel quite different in your life. Perhaps part of your noticing then becomes a measure of gratitude. But also an encouragement to be more soft, to see if there's some last little piece of holding or activity in that area at the tips of your feet that you might let go of. And then you can start to seep your attention into the balls of the feet. So again, lots of little complicated bone structures, small supporting muscles. And be aware of the complexity in that area of your foot. And then aware of anything that you might soften or release in that area of your foot. Perhaps enjoying the sensation of weightlessness, of not having to carry weight in the feet right now, or the freedom of not constraining your feet with shoes right now. And start to shift your attention into the arches of the feet. And feel the swoop of the arch. Again, noticing how much has to exist for that shape to be as stable and as strong as it is. But then also making a small request for a little bit more softness. And carry your attention into the heels. And noticing this quality of weightlessness, of not having weight right now on the bottom of the foot. You might be aware of the pressure of the floor against the back of the foot. And then you can wrap your attention around to the tops of your feet. And again, just exploring their muscles, connective tissue, tendons, all the pieces that hold the foot together, the outer shell of the skin. The breathiness that comes with not having enclosed the foot in a shoe. Maybe the snuggly sensation of a blanket or socks against your feet. And then moving up towards the ankle, and again, taking time to pay attention to exactly what's going on in your ankle, combing through. Maybe you have a sense of what the bone structures of the ankle look like really specifically, or maybe you don't. With your mind's eye, you might see the anatomy textbook picture and be able to massage out areas of tension with that visual in mind. Or your experience might be more textural or abstract. And still, we can go looking for a little bit more softness. And then we'll move up towards the calves. Just exploring sensation along the back of your lower leg. You feel the weight of the muscles settling off the bone. Feel the connection between the back of the calf and the floor. The quality of resting into the earth and allowing the earth to hold you up. Wrapping around to the front of the shin. Sliding your attention up those long, thin bones that connect the ankle to the knee. And as you go, using this quality of specific attention to massage out any sensation of tension or holding. If you've had an injury specifically in your feet or in your shins or in your lower leg, you might have the opportunity to really notice around that area of the injury any kind of scar tissue, any residue that you can comb through and untangle. And then we'll move up towards the knee joint, and again, just holding your attention in that space, seeing it as clearly as you're able, either with knowledge of the actual bone structures and muscles or simply through pure sensation. And maybe sometimes pure sensation is actually a better way to know yourself. And then we'll travel from the knee up the back of the leg, so exploring the space of the hamstring, backs of the thighs. Again, really feeling how the muscles can settle off the bones into the floor, into the support of the earth. You notice if there's tension in those muscles. Notice if there's overstretching in those muscles. And feel the weight of the thigh bone itself. And carrying your attention to the tops of the thighs. So the bigger muscles of the quads. But also awareness of the less loved or less cared for muscles in the inner and outer lines of your legs. And then we'll continue to travel up the back of the hip. So feeling all of that cushiony padding settling into the floor. The weight of the pelvis itself. And then especially take some time in the internal space of your pelvis. Exploring sensation in the muscles of the pelvic floor, the organs that sit inside of that space. And as we untangle areas of tension here, we might start to notice that the tension is both physical and emotional. That maybe as we explore softening or letting go, that we're carried to memories or attachments to things that are outside of ourselves right now. Maybe there's an opportunity to kind of unhook any of those attachments that feel a little bit too sharp, that pull a little bit too strongly. And taking your attention across the front of the pelvis. You feel how your leg bones connect into the sockets of the pelvis. The broad space of the pubis. And then the beginnings of the lower abdominal muscles. We'll wrap around again towards the back of the body, paying attention now to your low back. And especially noticing here any areas of discomfort in the spine, in the muscles that line the spine. Maybe that discomfort is related to specific ways of carrying ourselves, habitual ways of being in our bodies. Maybe we can look here for a more fluid, natural, comfortable alignment in the low spine. So really feeling how your low spine just gently sweeps away from the floor. There's that little bit of a scoop in the low back when we lie with a neutral spine to the floor. And carrying your attention towards the internal space of the low abdomen. feeling how the structures of muscle, connective tissue might soften to create more space for the impact of your breathing. So your lower belly can be more receptive of just a fluid, smooth, natural breath. As we're dissolving any holding or gripping in this area, again, we might notice that there's an emotional quality to that experience. And moving your attention more towards the surface muscles, the area around your navel, the skin of the belly. We'll wrap back around via the sides of the waist to the back of the body once more. You can feel kind of the mid-back where the spine meets the rib cage. And then continues up in relationship with your ribs. Once more observing connection to the ground beneath you, support from the ground beneath you. Sensation of breath in the back of your ribs. And then moving into the cavity of your chest, the space inside your rib basket. And find an awareness of muscles and organs that sit in the upper abdomen and in the space of your chest. You can notice what emotions arise when we explore the space around the heart. And then bringing your awareness to the front of the abdomen, so the upper abdomen, and then the chest. And noticing how your ribs change shape to make space for your breath. How more softness can allow more receptivity to the breathing. So we don't have to change the breath, but it becomes easier, more nourishing. And soften the sternum, the collarbones, the skin of the chest. And once more, wrapping around towards the back of the body, pay attention to your shoulders, backs of your shoulders, the shoulder blades, perhaps specifically as they rest into the floor. Again, that kind of broadening, widening quality as we feel the breath in the back body. And then moving your attention into the shoulder sockets, how the upper arm bone connects into your shoulders. You can shift your attention to the backs of your arms, how your soft muscles settle into the floor, how the weight of the arm bone drops into the mat or into the floor. And travel through the space of your elbows, noticing any stickiness in that joint that you might resolve. And feel the backs of your forearms resting into the ground, backs of your hands. Move your attention into your fingers, and again, find that same amazement for the complexity of your fingers. Notice the knuckles, the tiny bones that connect the knuckles. the tendons around the back of the hand that allow for so much dexterity. The tips of the fingers, the fingerprints, the cups of the palms of your hands. Bring your attention into your wrist, again noticing especially if there's any habitual movement or positioning that might have created discomfort in the wrist, and if we can find a loosening or more spaciousness in the area of the wrist. And then you can bring the attention up the front of your arm, so first traveling through the front of your forearm to the inner eye of your elbow, back to the weight of your upper arm bones, traveling along the inner line of your arm towards your armpits, the front of the shoulder, the heads of the shoulders, the area where the collarbone and your shoulder blades meet. And then moving up to the base of your neck. So first perhaps exploring the connection between the backs of the shoulders and the neck, the heads of the shoulders and the neck, that little pit at the V of your collarbones, and then the space of your throat, so even really soften through the throat. Find the line from the heads of your shoulders towards your ears and see if you can soften that whole line. And then finally exploring this scoop at the back of the spine so that you notice how your spine gently sweeps again away from the floor and the curve of the back of your neck. And then how the body dips back into the floor through the curve at the back of the skull. And become aware of the whole space of your skull. So that outer shell, the skin around it. And then moving into the internal space of your skull. And exploring around the area of your face, so starting at the jaw, seeing if we can take maybe a little bit of extra time to relax the jaw. And then relaxing through the mouth, the lips, the teeth, the tongue. Creeping with that softness up towards your cheeks, your temples. See if you can allow your eyes to sit a little bit more heavily into their own sockets. And soften along the eyebrows, and up through the forehead, moving along your hairline, almost like a massage of the forehead, temples, the hairline, but internally. And then finally meeting with your attention at the center of your forehead, at the point between your eyes. And just rest there for a moment. And then perhaps we can find the sum total of all of those softening sensations. So that rather than being specifically aware of just one part of the body, we're aware now of the whole body, both the physical body and all of the weaving of emotion and sensation and feeling and experience that resides in those physical spaces. And we look again for a quality of softening that whole body, that whole experience. And then you can continue to rest here for as long as you like. And whenever you feel ready, you simply start to wake yourself back up, perhaps with more conscious breath, with little movements in your fingers and your toes, going really slowly, taking your time to bring the body back into connection to the outer world, awareness of the outer world. So I won't guide you through that part specifically. You can simply do it at your own sweet, slow pace. Thank you for joining me for this experience.